Hey, good day, everybody.
Mr. Bharat,
Thank you for our public safety committee meeting today, November the 23rd. As of right now, we don't have the 77th precinct on the line. They was going to give us an update on what's going on in our community from the 77th precinct perspective.
Mark, I thought the deputy inspector joined us.
See,
Deputy inspector
John
joined us.
Davoli on the line. This
Yeah,
is
he joined
FYI
us.
speaking.
Deputy Inspector, good day. How you doing?
good. I'm just trying to figure out how to start my video.
Yeah,
If you guys want, just go ahead and get started. I'll jump in a minute. I just got back from a job, so I just need a couple of minutes to get set.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, thank you guys for everybody attending. For our agenda today, we're gonna once we get settled down from the deputy inspector, we'll give a brief review of what's going on in our community from the 77th Street, 77th precinct standpoint. But also, what's that's important. But also, what's important is what's going on in the community from us as residents, what we can do to resolve this situation that's going on in our community. And one of the forces that we have is the Save Our Streets Neighbors in Action. We have some representative from that group. We have Lateef Scott and Rashawn Johnson, and also William McKeithen is supposed to be joining us shortly. I think William might have just
Signed on.
Yes, I'm here, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Inspector is getting settled in. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go straight into you guys, and if you can, we'll start off with Lateef.
Yes, sir.
Just quick introduction of yourself. Just a quick background, and just give us a perspective on what you think is going on and what steps are being done.
Okay. Well, my name is Derek Lateef Scott. Started the Cure Violence program back in we had gotten funding for the funding for the Cure Violence program back in 2009, August, from the Obama stimulus. That was when the now Neighbors in Action was called the Crown Heights Community Mediation Center, and they looked at brothers like myself, Lavon Walker, David Bookhart, and Achizimak Yisrael. We first started the program called, that's what we know now today as SOS Save Our Streets. And what was going on back then was we had some angry youngsters, and today we have some angry youngsters. And it's not just youngsters, and I'm gonna go into that furthermore after I introduce myself again. Again, my name is Derek Lateef Scott. Now I'm I'm the frontline runner for Operation Hood. I founded back in 2016 after I got a lot from our first Cure Violence program, which was called the Save Our Streets program. I started the Operation Hood back in 2016 January, where Coney Island, the same as Crown Heights, the same as Bed-Stuy, they were in an uproar of shootings, and they wanted the Cure Violence site in Coney Island. We started the Cure Violence site, and what you see is, and in the beginning, Mark was saying that we need more people like myself on the ground. No, we don't need just people like myself. We need people like Mark. We need people like the gym teacher. We need people like the store owners. Anybody that have a hand in changing the mindset of individuals, we need on the ground. These are credible messengers. People would think just because some of us probably was incarcerated that we're the best credible messengers. We are credible messengers, yes, but we ain't the best credible messengers. We have good credible messengers that can be a teacher. We have credible messages that can be anyone that has a hand in or a mouth to ear of these youngsters. You are considered a credible messenger. What we need is what we started with, the 5 components of the Care Violence program, which was the outreach, faith-based leaders, community mobilization, utilizing public education and law enforcement, which we get data from. These are the 5 core components of the Cure Violence program, and without them, then we can start talking about we can't do anything. But we have this within our neighborhoods. We have the outreach team. After myself, Mr. Williams is going to explain what his outreach team does out there and what they do on the streets and things of that nature in the streets of Crown Heights. Now, with that, the outreach team, they serve as case managers. They have to have 10 to 15 participants that's likely to shoot or get shot because of their high-risk activity. And the job of the outreach worker is to help this participant create alternatives to their lifestyle. Now, I say help because we don't tell them what to do. They ask us, or they tell us what they want. Excuse me. They tell us what they want. This is the difference between a participant and a client. Clients are mandated. No, they're participants. These are individuals that's likely to shoot or get shot. So they can be part of a gang. They can be part of a crew. They can be just an everyday Joe, but just angry. They're participants, and they see the consistency of the outreach team, so they latch on. When we hire individuals for these positions, we make sure that the community knows who they are. You understand? As I said, I'm going to say that again. We make sure, because it's not about them knowing the community. It's about the community knowing them. So if they're walking around and the community takes to them, hey, how you doing? Or you're talking to this gentleman and this, that, and we see that they have something of substance and somebody's eager to have a conversation with them. These are the ones that are hired to do this position. They go into the Albany houses. They go into the Weeksville houses. They go over there on Kingston and Bergen. They walk around.
There's no window for.
Say again? Excuse me? Oh, I thought somebody.
I think that was accidental. Somebody unmuted.
Oh, okay, no problem. But they're in these community and before they're hired, we want to ensure that the community knows who they are. You understand? It's not so important of them knowing the community. It's important that the community knows who they are, that they're credible, that they're not what we will call soft or whatever have you, that they're scary about walking around the neighborhood, because you can't be scared doing this job at all. So we want to ensure that the community knows these individuals and the community respects these individuals. As we move forward with the faith-based leaders, we want the faith-based leaders, whether it be Judaism, Islam, or Christianity, whatever. We want them to start talking from the pulpit about these angry people that we have. They don't have a problem. None of these people, and that's our biggest fault, is saying that these our brothers and sisters out there have a problem. No, they don't have a problem. Something has happened to them. Nothing is wrong with them. You understand? Something has happened to them, and it's our job to find out what has happened to them, so that we can ensure that they can actually be treated properly. We're not gonna go back and figure out what the hell they did in the background or whatever. Whatever they did in their past, they did in their past. We meet them where they're at. That's the difference between SOS, Operation Hood, Man Up, and any other. That's what we do. Hood, SOS, Man Up, whatever Cure Violence program you will find out there. The difference between our programs and any other programs, we're not going to go back and say, well, you messed up here. We did no. It's not about what they've done in their past. It's about meeting them where they're at. Okay, let's go. We rip up that paper and we start a new slate. And this is how we do it. And they respect it. We show the consistency of it. And this is why we're embraced. This is why we have a great percentage in changing it around. Lately, as we see, the city's in an uproar. A lot of shootings have taken place. Do we understand it? When people fear what they don't understand, and I'm gonna say that much. People fear what they don't understand, and we can go into acting like lab rats or whatever have you. These kids are angry. These kids don't have nowhere to go. They're trapped, and not to say just giving them excuses for why they're pulling out a gun. Who knows why they're pulling out the gun if you're running scared? You don't, again, and I'm going to say this boldly, we need men on the ground, men like SOS, men on the ground, not to take nothing from the women, Not to make nothing from the women, because the women has always been in the front line, and I applaud you. But we need men, not soft men that's gonna say, "Oh, these kids is wrong," or "These kids is going crazy," or "These kids." No, these are our children, whether biologically or otherwise. But they're in our neighborhood. They're our children. They pay attention to what we do, not what we say. So let's stop lip professing, start showing these kids affection, and on a consistent basis, not just today and then wait a couple of weeks and then you see them. No, they need consistency. This is what community mobilization is about, bringing community together. We always talk a good one when we say it takes a village, but do we actually believe it? Do we actually mean it? Because many of us don't believe it. Many of us don't mean it. You understand? But it does take a village, and it takes a village of consistency, not a village that's in mayhem. Or they seeing you argue. So if you're arguing with this person, another person over some miscellaneous, excuse my expression, shit, they look at us and be like, and y'all expect us to do better? And you have to ask yourself, who am I? Like Michael Jackson, who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? Who am I? We know the needs of the peoples. And I'm talking to the men, because women, they're on the front line. They're on the front line. If you turn around, a woman is on that front line, doing something, saying something, showing something. We need more men to be men and stop being soft. Stop being soft and get out there and protect our babies out there. Guide our babies. That's what they need. They need guidance. And there's a whole lot of other things that's needed. But if William can come on and talk about the potatoes are going on, go ahead, Brother William.
William?
Yes, I'm here.
Could you just tell
Okay.
everyone that
Yes,
that's
I will.
on the call?
Mark.
I'm doing good.
I
That's
will.
on your call. Can you please mute yourself? Everyone that's on the call, please mute yourself. Okay, William, you got it.
Okay, everyone. First thing I have to do is apologize for my video, because I'm on a laptop, unfortunately, that the video goes in and out. But I assure you that I'm here, I'm present, and you just can't see me at all times while I'm talking. My name is William McKeithen, and I am the Community Engagement Liaison at Save Our Streets Neighbors in Action office at 265 Kingston Avenue, in between Lincoln Place and St. John's Place in Crown Heights. I have been in this position since May 17th of 2019. And what I'm here to report to you about what's taking place in Crown Heights with regard to our work to end violence and end gun violence specifically in our community is that we know that every summer there's an uptick in gun violence in our community in Crown Heights. And if I might do this right now so you can have a better understanding of the work that we do and be able to understand that what I'm saying to you is true about the statistics and the data proving that with SOS in Crown Heights in the area which we canvass. So mind you, we do not canvass the whole Crown Heights, unfortunately, because we do not have that many people that are from the community who can go into the community and establish relationships and work channels to build their relevant social networks to try to end violence, which is one component that we do. But we only cover a 40-block radius in Crown Heights. So when I speak to the work that we do have incidents, and we acknowledge that sometimes something will take place outside of our catchment area, and it will manifest itself within our catchment area. So in other words, to keep it simple, many of us know how things go. Someone will get into an argument somewhere else, and they'll get spotted somewhere different from where they got into an argument. And then the person who is unable to process their emotions and deal with their anger in a proper manner, in a manner in which no one gets hurt, no bodily harm is caused to someone, a shooting takes place. So during COVID-19, prior to COVID-19, every summer there's an uptick in violence. And we know exactly some of the factors that cause this uptick. However, we cannot say for certain what is the cause in the uptick in every incident, but we know for certain that in the summertime, more people come outside. And they're out later than they're usually out later. And they're doing some things that are unhealthy in their behaviors, such as using stimulants, which is, I don't knock anyone for drinking or smoking or whatever they do. But if you're out in the streets and these things are taking place and you're out late at night, is more people congregating than it normally would, people already on some type of substance, their mind is not where it's supposed to be, an incident can take place. So what we've been doing is, soon as we seen the uptick in violence, we started mobilizing in the community. We do what we know as outreach work. We have violence interrupters and outreach workers who participate in what we call community mapping. What I mean by community mapping is not walking around and taking note of the streets that they're on, but getting to know the people in the environments and in the neighborhoods. And in fact, these people who are doing what I'm talking about are from Crown Heights, in the very 40 block radius that we canvass, not patrol, because we're not police officers, we're not public servants. What we are is people who care about the health and wellness of our community and are striving to environment. So we did a peace march on July 14th of 2020, which we believe mobilized the community, got people to think about envisioning their environment and in their space in a different and more productive way, rather than a place in which something can happen where a child can get shot or a child can get beat up and jumped. Envision your neighborhood in a more productive and healthy way. We come out and we talk about it takes a village to raise a child, but the village has to actually be out where the children are at in order to be there to show them the right and the wrongs. And what I want to say is this. There's a myth that's been perpetuated in the media, and it started as early as in the 90s. It's about 25 years old right now. It's referring to our Black youth as super predators in our community. And let us not downgrade or downplay the fact that when a child or a man, whoever shoots a gun in our neighborhood without having the authority, the rightful ownership and legal possession of a firearm, and is not finding themselves in a situation where they feel their life is at jeopardy, they have no right to be shooting a gun. However, these things are taking place in our community. We feel that we came out, anytime we come out and let the community know this is not business as usual. What I mean by business as usual is, unfortunately for our young Black males and females that live in areas that are traditionally what we know as Black enclaves, but unfortunately have turned into some pockets of poverty. When you have poverty, you're going to have underground economies and underground trades and all kinds of things happening because people are going to have to find a way to survive. So we did a peace march. We got people to come out. Our elected officials came out, they spoke, and they let people know, listen, it takes all of us to raise our community and keep our community safe. Let's work together. Let's change the narrative. So we have effective collaboration with a great deal of community partners and organizations in the community. And they come to our office at 256 Kingston Avenue. And when they come there, they will find that there's an opportunity for each and every one of you at any time that you would like to volunteer to help us in the work that we do. Because we use our own money to provide food for the community during this COVID pandemic that we're in right now. And we've been out there providing food. We've been collaborating with the Crown Heights Jewish Community Council, as well as Repair the World. These community-based organizations are helping Neighbors in Actions and SOS deliver food to people, because right now people don't have a job. People are very upset. They're stressed out. There's a lot of trauma going on. When people are hurt, they tend to hurt other people. So what we've been doing throughout this whole past 9 to 10 months here in these streets is canvassing, even when we're not supposed to be canvassing. We've been told not to work, but we love our community so much that we are still out in our community when we're not supposed to, because it takes us to truly heal our community. We're not just a job or a corporation. We're a bunch of caring individuals, just like you all are. And we thank you all for having us here today to give you some insight in what we do and let you know where you can help us. You can help us by volunteering at our office. Get in contact with me. I will give you my contact information, my telephone number to my work cell phone. And I will also give you the Neighbors in Action website, my personal website, so that you can reach out to me should you like to volunteer in the relief efforts and the work that we do. But I would like to say this in closing. No way can we actually ask people to come out into the streets and walk through the neighborhoods that we walk through and try to talk to the kids and the older folks that we know that are out there doing the things that they do and the things they know how to do, which are unhealthy behaviors, because it's not safe for people who are not from those environments to go into those environments and try to tell someone they need to stop doing what they're doing, because not only is it bad for them, it's hurting other people. Like grandmother that got shot by accident on the train in Bedford-Stuyvesant on Fulton Street the other day, which breaks my heart. cannot just go to anyone and try to tell them to stop doing what they're doing. It takes people who are come from the backgrounds that they come from and can speak to them and try to get them to understand, listen, it's time to put the gun down and change your lifestyle. So, thank you so much for giving SOS a chance to speak this evening.
Thank you, William. After we respond, you want to put a statement? Question in reference to your 40 block zone. Could you guys identify that area that encompass Crown Heights?
Hassan, would you care to speak to that as my supervisor?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Let's get my headphones together. I just want to echo the words that say thank you for definitely having us on to have these meetings. Personally, I'm looking forward to having more meetings and having more discussions around what we can do as a community in Crown Heights, but also just throughout Brooklyn and throughout the city. Our catchment area goes from Atlantic Avenue all the way to Eastern Parkway, and then it goes from Kingston all the way to Utica. We often get calls about incidents that happen on Fulton Street. We get calls about incidents that are happening on Ralph Avenue, or calls about incidents that are happening on New York or on Nostrand Avenue. It's quite unfortunate that we're not always able to respond to those calls, because one of the more important things that we do is we think about safety first. And what really helps this work really move it forward and how it really works is really based on relationships. So a lot of times the people who are hired for SOS live in the community, and that's something Lateef definitely spoke to. Familiar faces, people who've lived in the community, people who have turned their lives around, people who have a vested interest in changing their community and helping other people in the community. So oftentimes if we go to another area where we're not from, that can cause incidents and situations that can get out of control. One incident that I could really point to is when there was a young person who got shot and was killed on St. John's and Ralph about maybe 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and we responded along with other organizations. And while we were out there during the shooting response, a community member raised the window, said, "Get out of this neighborhood, I'm trying to work." It was like 3 in the afternoon. This was 3 o'clock. She said, "I'm trying to work." And we're there to raise awareness in the community about people, being shot. She went as far as to come downstairs with a baseball bat, trying to run us out of the community. But it's fortunate that all of us are trained in conflict resolution and how to de-escalate situations. So we were able to de-escalate, speaking to her, but also to her significant other. So, it's really quite unfortunate that the city has seen an uptick and continues to see an uptick in violence. But it's really unfortunate that we can't respond to every incident of violence. But I think that's where community members actually come into play, and where community members on the outskirts, the 40 block radius that we actually, cover, come into play, and that we can work together to help build those relationships. Like when I get a call about a shooting that happened in an area outside of our catchment, the first question I ask them is, who's the family member? Because I think it's very insensitive to try to send SOS workers to an area to respond to an incident, and we don't even have the name of the victim or the deceased, and we're not connected to the families. So I want to know who's the family, and how can we stand with the family and get services to the family as well, whether they need assistance with burial, or if they really want us to come out there and do a response. So that's something that I actually, try to figure out first. And then the second thing I'm thinking about is safety. I probably didn't give everyone, they can see my name. My name is Rosalind Johnson. I'm Associate Director of Community Safety for the SOS program. I manage a team of about 10 people, so the outreach workers, the violence interrupters that you see out there working to reduce gun violence in the community. I'm the person who work with them and try to strategize around how we can do this more effectively and more efficiently for our community. William spoke to the idea of the 70-year-old who, was shot on the bus. We were out there Saturday at the prayer vigil for her, and she was out there, someone who spoke. You think about the incident that just happened last night when, kids, 7 people shot, 1 murdered, talking about a Sweet 16 party that was happening in Eastern Europe that spilled over into Bed-Stuy. Like, it's Sunday night. Like, what's going on? That these young people were out here and talk about a Sweet 16 party. And also, we're in the midst of a pandemic. So, you know, thinking about all those examples and all of the violence that's happening across the city, as a community-based organization that's working to reduce gun violence, yeah, we got to step it up. We've shifted to do COVID relief work and providing food. We're still out there responding to incidents of violence in our catchment, but we got to step it up and we got to build more relationships with people who are also working towards reducing gun violence in the community. People who aren't considered credible messengers, but are credible because they live in the community and have a vested interest in changing the way that their communities look. We got to look at these quality of life issues and figure out ways in which we can get people employment, get more food to people, to get clothing and housing to people, and be not just solely focused on gun violence, but on a whole gamut of things that actually creates this cycle of violence and make people actually get engaged in incidents of violence because of their scarce resources and not really connected to stuff. So I'm open to having conversations about that. I'm open to working with people for that to see how we can expand and work together. And again, thank you for having myself, William, and definitely Latif. Latif is definitely a founder. I worked in the Bed-Stuy catchment, one of the catchments that he actually founded. And definitely thank you for having me.
Thank you. You know, I thank you guys for all the work that you're doing in the community. You guys are the frontline workers. It's not just your work that's needed. It's needed for the community works that's needed. Every individual needs to be involved with it. We need education. We need activities for the kids. But you guys touched on some words that was extremely important. Consistency. I find that extremely important. Consistency, because at times we just come out and say you do something one time, and then if the kid is looking out for you, and the kid just see you out there one time, or just giving them some inspiration one time, and then the next time he's out there on their own. It's not even necessarily the bad kids, but the kids that might be a borderline kids. And males, we definitely need more men involved. And one of the prime examples, I could just even look on the people on this call. As usual, our women always come out for us, and we have men, but we definitely need more men involved. Not necessarily in front line, just men be involved in our community as a whole. What we're gonna do, I'm Deputy Inspector, we're gonna get to you shortly, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna open up the floors for questions. Michelle, how do you want to handle this? You want them to put in the chat, or you want them to raise their hands and you'll be able to identify them? I don't have Asa with me because he normally handles that part to look after whose hands are up.
There is a question in the chat already.
Okay, Marva, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Does SOS work with local precinct, community affairs, local or borough, or the neighborhood community officer?
Thank you so much. I'll answer that question. Yes, that is part of my role as community engagement liaison, to connect with the community relations officer at the 77th precinct. Her name is Laverne Green. I've made a lot of attempts, not to put Officer Green on the spot, to connect with Officer Green, and Officer Green hasn't really connected with me, and the times that she does is typically with a police frame of mind. So let me explain something to you. SOS is not anti-police. However, what we do in the community is so sensitive that in order for us to prevent gun violence, which, let me be straight now, the only thing we can actually prevent, and that we do actually prevent, is like retaliatory shootings. We can't be there when a shooting happens. We're not that fortunate. Sometimes our outreach workers and our violence interrupters might know someone who is angry, who feels slighted, and they might turn to them and say, listen, I'm about to do something in the neighborhood because such and such and such, and we're able to intervene then. But for the most part, after a shooting happens, we go into the neighborhood and try to prevent retaliatory shootings and provide counsel to console people who have been traumatized, to speak to people to try to resolve things. So in trying to resolve retaliatory shootings, you cannot let people in the community feel that you are somehow going to start turning people in. Because if you do that, you're not going to be able to stop something from happening. Nobody's even going to talk to you. That doesn't mean that we are in furtherance of criminal activity or we're helping criminal activity. But we can't work with the police department in the way that the police department seems to want us to work with them. And I'm being frank with you. You know, they want us to go and talk to people like they've identified the people in the community. Yo, these guys over here on St. John's, they're doing whatever. And we keep getting calls about them. Could you guys go over there and talk to them? We're talking quality of life things. And that is not what we're out in the community for. But yes, we do go at times and say to people, listen, man, I know you've been living here since you was 3 years old. But right now, could you kind of be cool with all of this hanging out here late at night, popping bottles and doing whatever you're doing? But it's still so delicate because now people start saying, well, you know, you think you the cops or whatever. And, you know, it's like Rasan said, we have to build relationships with people. But yes, we do have a relationship with the 77 precinct. I usually only see them when I go to CB8 meetings. And I only get a chance. I've introduced myself to the chief. I introduced myself to him, you know, and I've even had a meeting with him. Like I went to the 77 precinct upon my, you know, numerous requests when Brian Cunningham was our director. He's no longer the director right now. Our director name is Kellen Kalefu. I might be mispronouncing his last name. Please forgive me. However, I've been to the 77 precinct and sat down with the chief, with Officer Green, with Pierre Lewis, and we've had discussions. They were fruitful, but I can't truthfully say we have a relationship with them because our work is really different.
Yeah, and if I could just add a little more to what William said, one of the ways that we frame it is that NYPD has a job to do, and cure violence workers, we have a job to do, and at no point do we want to have that be a strain, you know, on either side. The 77 precinct has been helpful in regards to helping us get permits for events that we want to do. Like he spoke about the peace march that we did. Like we had something that we was doing in response to an uptick in shootings in Crown Heights, and we wanted to do it immediately. So Officer Green and the officers over there were helpful in helping us, you know, get the route approved, how we wanted to march through it. So it certainly helpful in that regard. And mostly people who are on the ground working and who are on the front line, like our outreach workers and our violence interrupters, like we absolutely do not want them to have any contact with law enforcement at any point because their credibility is on the line and they're trying to help the community and get people who have adverse, you know, experiences and reactions to law enforcement. So if they have that type of, you know, relationship with it, we won't be able to resolve a lot of the conflicts that we actually have. So William, you know, as a community engagement liaison, that's his definitely responsibility. And also the director and myself, it would be our responsibility as well to have those meetings and discussions with them. But Lateef definitely spoke about something earlier in that NYPD also provide data as regards to shootings in our catchment or outside our catchment, and it help us really begin to compare the two and see how things are going up and going down and where and what areas we really need to target. So that's how it is really based in that regard.
Okay. Do we have any more questions in the chat, Martha?
Not that at this time, but I had a question.
I did see one. It says, have you guys reached out to Chief Judith Harris? Yeah, just to answer that question, we absolutely did. I was on a Zoom meeting with her. This is about maybe a few months ago, like late August, early September. So we definitely have had communications with her in regards to her coming into that new role and everything like that.
Okay. Marva, you were saying?
I wanted to know if families are responsive to your efforts, you know, whether they're families of shooting victims, and how has your experience been dealing with families, and is there any need that you think can be made or met by the community board in that regard?
So typically, when let me speak about the incidents if someone is shot. We try to connect with the family of a victim, a gunshot wound victim, or even someone who lost their life to gun violence. In a lot of cases, we are successful. We use our clergy action network to be able to reach out to the families in that regard, and our therapeutic staff. Our clergy reach out, and if it's an unfortunate situation where someone lost their life, he reach out with assistance to begin to help people with resources for burying their deceased loved one, but also to provide other assistance in regards to doing funeral services himself. We also try to connect the therapeutic staff. During the summer, we had one incident in Weeksville houses where a 16-year-old was murdered. And we were unable to make contact with the family prior to going out there. But nevertheless, we determined that we'll go out there and do a shooting response. While we were out there and we were closing out the shooting response, someone walked up to me. I didn't know at the time he was asking to speak on the mic. But during our exchange, he told me, he said, yo, this is their family. This is, her sister, his brother. And the mother came down, and that was such a powerful moment right there, where the mother, start talking about her son, the deceased son, and how she needed help and how she reached out to different institutions and organizations. So what we were able to do was we were able to connect her to our therapeutic staff, and to be able to provide support in that way as well. So some families are certainly receptive. Others, it's hard to find others. Sometimes you'll find an incident of someone that gets shot inside our catchment who don't live in the catchment, that they'll live somewhere else, like in Brownsville or in Bed-Stuy, and it'd be hard for us really to track down who the family member is of that person. But we certainly have been able to do that. Also, our clergy and our therapeutic staff, they also have something that are called support groups for people who have lost someone to gun violence. Right now it hasn't been running because of the pandemic, but they're looking to try to start back up, once we enter a phase where the pandemic is seen to be leaving, but we see so many cases are going up. But that's something that they provide services to people. And we also do what is called a night of remembrance, where we host an event where people will come out and, receive services and get an opportunity. It's like a cathartic moment where people can speak about, the person that they lost, and to connect with others in that regard. So we have been successful in some respects.
And if I might add briefly to what Rasun just said and piggyback off of it. So Rasun about a moment when, very rare that I've seen in his work, he's been in the work a lot longer than me, when a victim's family member, the child's mother, came outside and spoke. And when she spoke, it was so important, because again, there's a narrative that needs to be changed about violence in the Black community. Because the narrative is that, our young males are just these super predators. Like, they don't care. They have less regard for anyone's life. They don't care about nobody's life, this, that, and the third. And, it just goes on and on and on, where we almost vilifying, these children who don't know the difference between right and wrong, who can't process their emotions properly. And instead of back in the days where I come from, because I'm 58 years old, when you get in a disagreement with somebody, you usually talk about it for a little while. If it can't be resolved, the most thing that's going to happen is somebody's going to have a fist fight, best man win, and then we might end up being friends afterward. But nowadays, these children don't do things like that. They immediately go right to wanting to hurt somebody, rupture flesh with lead. And so it's very important to understand, because when this woman came out, she said, listen, I don't want my son being cast as a gangbanger, as all the other negative things that they say about young Black males in the community when these shootings took place. My son had a mental health issue. It hasn't been living with me since he was 5 years old, and comes in and out of my life whenever he's not receiving treatment. I called 3 different government agencies in the city seeking help for him. because he was sleeping out here on the sidewalk where he got murdered at in front of my building, and no one came to help him. We need to change the narrative in order to get this work done. This is why we call it cure violence. We need to see violence as a pandemic, as an epidemic, as a sickness, and find a way to cure it, as opposed to just prosecuting it and looking for ways to just lock people up. And don't get me wrong, because I am a formerly incarcerated man. I went to prison rightfully. I should have been sent to prison, but I turned my life around while I was in prison. Some people have to go to prison. But let's try to reach these kids, these 14 and 16-year-old, before they have to go to prison or before they get shot down in the street. So she was able to change the narrative and show us that all of these shootings taking place in Crown Heights are not just some little bad kids running around with 9mm in their waist. It's traumatic incidents taking place, and people can't process them, and the way they respond to them is with extreme violence, extreme prejudice. Thank you.
I want to just add on to that, and I thank you for saying that, Will, because we do have to change the narrative, very much so. When we talk about adverse childhood experiences, I can only revert back to my life. I was being whipped with an extension cord before the age of 5. I mean, bloody. And my stepdad, at that time, he was beating me with an extension. I'm talking about blisters hanging off my back. And I recall one time my mother was going to nurse my wounds, and he grabbed her by the hair and said, "Let that nigga bleed." You understand? Beating my mama up. I'm the eldest of 7 children. My mother had me at the age of 15. You understand? She had 7 children before the age of 30. You know, me being the eldest when my stepdad left, I'm 11 years old. And mind you, before he left, I was 8 years old when I was molested for a whole day by his brother. Didn't want to write to know. I didn't talk to my mother. Didn't say much to my mother because I was thinking I was protecting my mother. Because if I said something to my mom's, my stepdad would have probably beat her ass and beat my ass because I'm talking about his brother. You understand? So, and I haven't seen that man since that day, that dreadful day, whatever it was. All I know that I was 8 years old and never seen him again, but was very, very, very angry and started doing a whole lot of crazy shit in the street and being very promiscuous because I'm trying to prove to myself, because I'm a young man that's been molested by a man, thinking that I'm not a fucking homosexual. I'm not a homosexual. And I'm being very promiscuous with women and all these other things and blah, blah, blah. Started robbing drug dealers, got in the shootouts, got sent away. And for myself, I had to realize, why am I so angry? I'm angry at my mother. I'm angry with this. I'm angry with that. I'm angry with my mother, for one, because I felt that if she would have let this dude go a long time ago before, I would have never been molested. And for me to think that way, and my mother being abused, I would have to think about the lady that raised her. Then I would have to think about the lady that raised her. And I'm thinking all these things. So I'm thinking about too much about yesterday. You understand? And then even the question for those of us that believe in a higher power, why would my higher power allow this shit to happen to me? These are the things that was ailing me as a young man. Why would I have to go through all this? Why do I have to go through this? And it wasn't until, let me tell you something. It wasn't until I started telling my story more when I came home that I realized that I'm here to, I can tell my story and save another. You understand? And tell my story to save it. And I've, how many people, when I was telling my story, how many young kids came forward and was like, "Can I talk to you? Can I talk to you?" And we saved quite a few youngsters that was listening to the story, that it fell on their ears, and they came through, and we got them out their houses and things of that nature. And what was ever ailing them? Now, I'm not going to say name, but we helped a handful of these youngsters that was being abused. But that's not the whole fact remains it, because there's a lot of them that's not talking, that are out there pulling the trigger, that are out there beating up people, that are out there with gangs. Why? Because they finding more love in the comfort of street gangs as opposed to the comfort of their own home. And so the question is, what has happened? Let's have this conversation. The question is, sometimes a cure violence site cannot just do it alone. So we have partners. We have what we call social workers on deck that have an understanding, that shows empathy, that's helping these youngsters out of the mishappenings that's in their life. And we continue, it just doesn't stop there. We have to have these conversations on a continuum so that these youngsters can have something of substance to say that somebody cares. Because truthfully, there were some few people that cared in my life, but I didn't pay attention to the signs. I didn't pay attention to the signs. When I paid attention to the signs, I was locked up. I was locked up, away, and trying to still incarcerated. I was trying to just do it myself, and I cannot do it myself. I need people to help. People need people. The scripture, and I'm not a religious man, but the scriptures say that man sharpens man as iron sharpens iron. So and for me to embrace that scripture is to say that we all need somebody. We all need somebody, and that's what's going on with these. We keep saying young, but all of them ain't the youngsters that are shooting. But these are older people that are angry as well. People just don't, for some reason, doesn't know how to actually open up and say, listen, I'm hurting. I heard the brother say, hurt people, and that is real. They're hurting, and they don't know how to react to it or respond to it and say, listen, I am hurting. Some of them don't even recognize the back door. So they have to go through that front door. Why? Because the streets is watching. I'm not going through that back door. I'm not hiding. I'm not doing this. The streets is watching. So we have to show just cause and say, yes, the streets are watching. And so are you. So what are you going to do? This is not about what do you care about yourself? How do you care about yourself? How do you have self-care? Who helps? I'm going to use my name. Who helps Derek? Who helps Rasan? Who helps William? Who helps you? Because somebody helps us. I sharpen myself on another person. The next person will sharpen, and it's a chain reaction. We sharpen each other so that we can actually get out there and help someone else. Because the moment we think that we do this all by our damn self is the moment we're lost. And this is why these kids, and this is why our communities are in an uproar. We talk about, my favorite is that we talk about Black Lives Matter. Let's talk about it locally. How much do you matter in your life in this community, being a Black person or a person of color living in your community? How much do you matter? How much? And then we ask ourselves, this is a question that we ask ourselves. And then when we get these youngsters and we start talking to them about it, and then they start to open up and they start to have a clear head, because you cannot bring this on spring this on them right away, because they got a whole lot of calamities going on up in here. So once we start to brush it away, and you'll see the change, because they'll say they'll be talking. Wow, I remember when I was in Crown Heights and we did a birthday party for a young gangbanger that was from over on Kingston and Bergen. And he just turned 21. And we put his name on the cake, happy birthday, such and such, and blah, blah, blah. And he started, looking. I'm like, yo, boy, I know you ain't getting ready to cry. What's going on with you? He said, no, lie. I never seen my name on a cake before in my life. And that spoke volumes. That spoke volumes. Here's a dude that always walking around with his pants down saying, yo, lie, what it is, what's cracking with you, what's bloody, all these. But when we got him there and he's up there, got that cake in front, big cake, was saying happy birthday, he started crying, breaking down. This is the people that we're up against. And they're fighting themselves. The biggest fight is within themselves. And if we don't find out immediately, this is what happens when it comes out. And there's a lot of them out there, a lot of them. Question is, who's ready to go for that? Who's ready to be a foot soldier and go out there and have these conversations? Have the right conversations and just be consistent, because sometimes they ain't going to just want to talk to you right away. Or they're going to be like, what are you here for? You another fly-by-night person?
Mm-hmm.
You understand? What are you here for? I remember when we first started SOS, we didn't have no palm cards, no posters. We didn't even have a name yet. We was just having something written on a paper, typed on a paper, saying that a new anti-violent program is coming to Crown Heights and blah, blah, blah. And I remember people over there on St. John's and Kingston, people up on St. John's and Terrell, man, listen, we ain't interested in it. I'm just coming through, and next thing you know, y'all be gone. They didn't know that 11 years later, we're still standing. We're still standing. And he spoke about the 40 square blocks. I remember when we imposed those 40 square blocks in Crown Heights. And the reason why, that was where all the shootings was primarily taking place. When we first started, four of us did from Ralph Avenue to down by the Barclays Center, from Houston Parkway to Atlantic. And it was only 4 of us. And it was 76 shootings in Crown Heights, 2010, from January to December. There was 76 shootings. And the most of them was in that cluster from Kingston to Utica, from Eastern Parkway to Atlantic. That was the most of the shootings. So that's why we came up with that 40 square blocks radius. And we made things we brought the shootings down. It went in uproar. I don't know what's the percentage now within that target area, within that catchment. But I know that there's been shootings outside of it, inside Kingsborough, the Kingsborough houses, especially down a little further down around by the Nostrand Avenue side and things of that nature. But I know that back then we was holding that thing and holding it down. I think we went from, it was 26 shootings. We went down to 13 shootings, and we went down to 10 shootings. I don't know what's the percentage now, what's going on within that 40 square blocks radius now. But I'm pretty sure that the Crown Heights team, the SOS team, they're doing a good job. But again, to speak up for Rasan, and they can't do it alone. They cannot do it alone.
Yeah, definitely so, man. Definitely so. We're gonna run through these questions really quick. Marv, is there more questions out there?
There's a lot of questions in the chat.
We're gonna try to run through the questions really quick. I mean, we're gonna run through the answers really quick to them.
Right. I see Rasan has answered some. He's been typing in his answers. So I'm just trying to see which ones. There's questions about poverty. Are the members open to receiving help financially? I know that the website was posted. Can we make contributions via the website? Are you accepting donations for food, housing assistance, anything like that?
Yes, I can. If I may briefly, before I give Latif a chance to answer that. Yes, we are accepting assistance financially. Please contact our office. I'm going to give you the telephone number to the office if you don't have it right now. That number is 646-678-2219. And when you contact the SOS office to donate, whether it be food, clothing, or whatever, this is going to be processed the way that it should be, administratively, properly, and documented. But yes, we do need help, and we are accepting financial assistance, food assistance, PPE, toy drives. We're doing it all. So yes, please contact us.
Okay, I put it in the chat. The phone number is there in the chat for donations to the SOS office. There's a question from Mr. Green. Do you find organization clashing with the police when responding to a crisis situation? If so, how do you handle it? We do not clash law enforcement, Rasan wrote. They are aware of SOS work in the community. There's a question, is there a liaison with the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office?
Yes. I am in contact definitely with a liaison in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. In fact, she came to us recently to tell us about a young woman who had found herself in the criminal justice system. And now that she was exonerated, she was actually scared for her life based on other individuals that she had found herself involved with. And they reached out to us, and we're working with them right now to mediate that situation.
Sure. Okay. Lots of people offering to volunteer. I see Mr. Johnson also put his email in the chat, so you can scroll through the chat to see his email.
Yes,
a lot of people thanking Derek for telling his story. You know, I'm moved because it seems as though there's we have to break the cycle of secrecy within our communities, the cycle of generational curses, and, just the negativity that's within our fabric of society. So speaking about it and bringing attention and bringing light to these issues is something that will be in the forefront. I feel like there was one more question. There's a youth center that can assist with homework, resumes, and other opportunities. I know I was thinking as you were speaking about the support group, you know, maybe we can make a donation for like you all to have Zoom available so you can do the support group over Zoom or something like that, so that if people have electronic devices or even their cell phones, they can participate. I've been doing church over Zoom during the whole pandemic, and, you know, I've been going to church more over Zoom than I've gone any time in my life. So maybe that's something to consider for your support groups as well. There's a question, is there an educational component? Yes, that answered. This question about the media. Where is it? I guess they want to know, SOS have support from the media, social, print, or electronic?
So if I may answer that.
Sure.
So SOS is the name of our organization, the program of our organization that works towards reducing gun violence in Crown Heights. But we're also known as Neighbors in Action, which is in many different parts of the city doing many different things. So, to your question, please rephrase it one more time for me so I can answer it properly. I apologize.
Is there media coverage?
Thank you. So the media coverage that we do get when we get it typically is like a very small newspaper who only happens to come out of the clear blue sky when there's an excessive amount of shootings in the Black neighborhood. We do not have the type of media coverage that we need, the kind that will, again, reframe shooting incidents in our neighborhoods. We don't have friends in the media, people who will keep this in everybody's in mind, keep it relevant. No, they only come out of the blue woods, out of the clear blue sky whenever there's like an opportunity for them to do like a post-op piece. Like, so they can just talk about, oh, look what happened in the Black community. Somebody was shot 6 times. That's the only time we hear from the media.
Right. And even in preparation for this meeting, just Googling the organization, it's kind of like more of a spin of like these ex-cons working in the community and things like that, as opposed to, you know, people who have found healing and looking to foster healing with the youth in our community. So, you know, the media, from what I just Googled, you know, in the last couple of days, hasn't necessarily been friendly to the cure violence efforts.
So true.
And I think that was pretty much it from the chat. Someone's asking, can NYPD 77th Precinct tweet their positive work with you? Same with the Brooklyn DA's office. Yeah, I will note that we did reach out to the DA's office to see if we could get them to participate in this meeting tonight, and we were not able to get that together. They're offering to come to a future meeting because the DA's office does have some programming available for students, or excuse me, for young people who have been arrested with guns, and getting them social services, educational service, vocational services, and, you know, trying to address their needs so that they do not become further involved in the criminal justice system. So if you guys want a future meeting, we will definitely follow up with the DA's office to see if we can get the representative from their programs here as well. Oh, and for SOS, is there any future for you all to be involved as a, you know, direct programming, maybe with the courts as an alternative to incarceration program? You know, as we talk about generations of people healing, maybe using this as a way to facilitate programming that can help people who are criminal justice involved?
Yes, that would be great. We would definitely welcome any referrals with individuals who have found themselves to be court involved. In fact, we do, as a parent corporation, again, I was, trying to give a little history about SOS developing and our evolution. So our parent corporation is known as Center for Court Innovations. Center for Court Innovations has a strong relationship with New York City courts, in which they work with people from the time of arraignment for minor crimes to prevent these people from having a criminal record that will follow them for the rest of their lives, to deal with incarceration diversion programs. We do all of that. And we welcome anyone that can assist us in connecting us with the district attorney's office, so that I myself can establish that relationship and we can find some people to work with in helping people who find themselves criminally involved not have to go to prison, or once they do find themselves, once they're released, they can come and work with us, and we can just have a healthy relationship in which we're making referrals back and forth to one another and assisting these young folk. I'm looking forward to that meeting with the district attorney's office.
Sure, we'll see what we can do.
Okay. That we have anything else on the question?
Princess just wrote, our youths are labeled emotionally disturbed at a young age, medicated early with strong medication, with violent effects. So more a comment about the labeling of our youth and over medication within the community.
Yes, thank you so much. And I would like to address that briefly, if I may. So I am very aware of the fact that a great deal of our children have been classified medically as having attention deficit syndrome and a plethora of other mental health diagnoses that they're giving our children. And I'm not one to say that medication is not helpful. However, medication should not be used in every instance. Sometimes when a child appears to be hyperactive and overactive, it's because he or she has a learning curve that just happens to be faster than the rest of the children. So yes, we need to address the fact that a narrative has been written in city policy right now that makes it so that our young Black women and our young Black boys and our young Black girls are being diagnosed with mental health disorders, and medication is being forced on them, and then the medication makes them act violent, or if they have a violent reaction to the medication, because psychotropics can cause all kind of different reactions. We need to address that. We do in fact help a great deal of people that come to our office, because let it be known that we do not only do anti-gun violence work, we do community work. So we do have a legal branch of our office right on our block in between Lincoln and St. John's. It's called Legal Hand, and it's closer towards St. John's. In that office, when we have people in the community who are faced with these systems, where they're faced with bureaucracies telling them that their children have mental health issues, and they find their children being involved with the court system or the police, we try to mediate those situations as well and help families find the proper care and the best fit for their children who are acting out as a result of medication. So we do that work as well at SOS office.
Thank you. You guys provide a lot of services, and it seems like there's a lot of opportunities for the community to come in and volunteer and involved, and even contribute their expertise. If you have experience as a counselor, maybe you could run a group. If you have experience writing resumes, you can help young people with their employment endeavors. So it seems like you're touching all of these areas of people's lives that can lead them to be involved in the criminal justice system. So if we can cure the issues beforehand, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, thank you guys. Any more questions on there, Marvin? But Lateef, you mentioned something that was extremely important, my brother, because me as a man, as a Black man, at times we definitely feel like we're alone and we don't speak when we have issues. I must say that I find myself not opening up when I have a concern, and at times it builds up on us. Especially when you're a young man, you don't understand anything that's going on, and you're not opening up, and everything is coming down on you, and you don't have any place to go. It's extremely hard situation. As a grown man, it's hard for me, but imagine what it's like for all of our young kids, our young men that have to deal with this environment that's going on. Thank you again for opening up yourself to that, man, because that's extremely heavy what you're saying. Anything else, Marva? Because I want to get to the deputy inspector, because Deputy Inspector has been holding on with us for quite a while. But
Right.
what it is that this topic is extremely important, and Marva, thank you for putting it together. Also, I want to thank my my public safety committee team, because we don't just meet on this day. We meet another day during the month to plan these things out. So I'm going to give again a thanks to the public safety committee team, and thank you for everything.
Well, I just want to draw attention to the last comment. Can I drop off some turkeys to your office tomorrow to give to a few families that you helped in the past? So, you know, the holidays coming up and food shortages are real. So certainly call the number to schedule a time to drop off at the office. The number is in the chat. Thank you, Mr. Green.
William, you got cooking facilities for that? Or you're going to take care of it?
We actually have a sister who works with one of the organizations that I named, either the Crown Heights Jewish Community Council or Repair the World. And this sister is so miraculous that she literally cooked so many meals one day when we had a food distribution. I mean, not only did she cook it, she delivered it to the office so we could give it out that day. So yes, we have the ability to cook up food for people and give out meals. It all depends on the resources and the timing. But as I said, I welcome and invite everybody to reach out to us, and we will work together to schedule this and make this work the best way that we can.
Well said, William.
Thank you, Mr. McKeithen.
Anything else on that chat?
And this will be the last one from Ms. Tyus, our community board chair. Sounds like the program needs a regular disbursement of paid educational opportunities leading to improved employment outcomes. These programs should be tied into the local colleges. So maybe that's a network that can be built as well, getting adverse college and other
We've reached out to
involved.
So I'm sorry. We've reached out to Medgar Evers College. We've reached out to a couple of colleges. I myself am a Bard Prison Initiative alumni, and Bard College has a micro college in the Brooklyn Children's Museum or the Brooklyn Public Library. And so we are working with colleges, and I look forward to anybody else that maybe could give me an inroad or connection with someone in any college. I'm looking forward to
That's excellent.
Yo, thank you. All right, we're gonna take it.
Closing out the chat.
you know what it is that this is extremely important, because normally at our public safety meetings we have a perspective from the 77th precinct, and there's more to our community than just policing. We need to give our kids support. Not just support when they go bad, but we need to give them support before they go bad, so that they don't go bad. So that's a lot of information that we need to be aware of. So Marva, go ahead. I'm sorry, you had another one in there?
Oh no, I just said the chat is officially closed.
Don't stay with us. Stay anywhere, guys. Deputy Inspector Butterfuccio, would you want to give us some comments, please? I apologize for holding on so long, but I'm quite sure you're fully aware of the importance of the conversation.
Mark, I couldn't possibly agree with you more. I think that anything that was discussed on this call today is far more important than anything I could have given you, because I've given you the overview. I gave it to you last time. I'm happy to see a lot more people on the call this time. But with that being said, like I said, everything that we've been discussing on the call today is really far more important, and it really speaks to public safety on a whole. And you're 100% right in that you need a different perspective. And obviously, I've met with Rashawn, and I know the other people on the line, but it's also really nice to hear the overall conversation and not just a direct conversation with the police and SOS or Neighbors in Action. It's good to hear the overall back and forth. And like I said, there's really nothing that I could have said today that's more important than what they're speaking about. But I will touch on a couple of topics that I heard brought up, and then there's a couple of news I wanted to get you caught up on. But as as everyone is, as everyone was speaking with Derek, and Rashawn and just everyone, contributing, for me listening, I'm just thinking of opportunities of, how we can partner. And I know someone mentioned something about, about tweeting, but, tweeting and kind of getting that message out there. And I'm not really sure, and maybe they would agree, if us tweeting about Neighbors in Action and showing that we're partners, if that would necessarily help their cause. I think what they're saying is that, while we have the same goals, it's maybe not necessarily, the right thing to do is say, hey, there are partners, or we're partners in this, because maybe it would, reduce trust, when people do speak to them. They could say, hey, man, I saw the, the 77, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the right way to go, but, I'm just also thinking of other, opportunities where we can meet. Obviously, there are several things, and I definitely like to discuss with them. Sometimes, like they said, the incidents don't necessarily occur within the catchment area, and sometimes they involve people who live in the catchment area who maybe are involved in something outside the catchment area, which may apply to inside. And I think that's where we could find some common ground. Likewise, when something does occur in the catchment area, but maybe not necessarily have anything to do with the catchment area, and that's also important. And we've seen that happen this year. I know. I also heard about the homicide of the 16-year-old young man on at Weeksville, and Jaheim, and I won't say his last name, just because I don't want to make it, too public if someone doesn't know about it, or if they wouldn't want their family name out there. But I know that Mom had said that she had been to several organizations, and I can tell you, and I can tell everyone on the call, we had tremendous conversation with Mom before this homicide occurred, and we worked very closely with her. And I can tell you that my YCOs, which is our youth coordination officers, they're an offset of the NCOs, the neighborhood coordination officers, tried desperately to get Mom help, and tried to get Jaheim the help that he needed as well. And we were very aware of that situation before it came out, and before the homicide occurred. So we really feel like we did everything that we could. And it's very unfortunate that we lost that young man to violence in the street. I'm also hearing the need for mental health clinicians out there, and this is something that the NYPD has. When we look at our current strategy, when we look at where we want to go, I think the mental health aspect of this is just tremendous. And I know that we had heard some stories about some traumatic things, and that's really where the mental health aspect of things come into play. And I think that's something that you're going to see in the future. And again, this is not just a police problem. It's an overall community problem. And like I said, my brain was firing on all cylinders and thinking of new ideas and how to look at each of these shooting incidents, and how do we reduce that, because that's our goal. So we do share a common goal. I know I heard a question about we talked about incidents within the catchment area. The number was 15 this year. So if you look at that area that we're talking about, there's 15 shooting incidents that occurred in that 40-block radius this year. And again, not all of them apply to what was going on in just specifically in that area. And if we expanded that out to individuals who live in the area, who were involved in incidents outside the area, that number would probably grow. One of the biggest things that we are seeing right now is violence and guns in and around St. Mark's Playground. It's one of the biggest problems that we see right now. We see continued gun violence and individuals carrying gun in that area. I know this is something that I've spoken to Neighborhoods in Action about, and trying to keep an eye on that area, because it's within the catchment area. It's among one of the most violent areas in in the 7-7 right now, and it's an area that we should all be concerned with. Again, I see a lot of people who are on this call who weren't necessarily on our last call, and last call I broke down this year and what we've seen this year in Crown Heights versus in years past. So last year in 2019, we had 25 shooting incidents for the year, which was an increase from the year before, in which we saw 20 incidents. In 2018, we had 20 shooting incidents. In 2019, we had 25 shooting incidents. And now in 2020, we have 49 overall shooting incidents. I can tell you that the vast majority of those shooting incidents happened over the summer. And I know we talked about, I heard someone talk about this uptick in shooting violence over the summer. While that is true, it's not the pattern that we saw in 2019. However, in 2020, with COVID and with the lack of anywhere to go, we really did see a lot more people on the street, and that, along with I think a lot of other factors, led to this tremendous shooting increase that occurred between June 18th and August 18th. There was a 2-month period where we saw 25 shooting incidents. Now, I told you just a minute ago that 25 shooting incidents was the full year in 2019. So we saw, in a 2-month span, really a full year's worth of shooting incidents. Now, if I take out that 25 shootings from June 18th to August 18th, we're on pretty much the same exact trajectory that we were on in 2019, except for those 2 months. So those 2 months, or whatever happened in that period of time, really kind of, set the community back years in terms of shooting violence and shooting numbers. And from my perspective, in all honesty, the more shootings that you have, it just perpetuates more violence. It's the younger brother who sees, oh, is this the way to properly solve a problem? It's the younger kids on the street that think to themselves that now this is the answer. Okay, I get it. When I have a problem, this is how I deal with it. This is what it takes. This is how to deal with it. So we really have to find a way, and I think we're doing that on this call, find a way to reverse that as soon as possible. Because, quite frankly, we've had much better times. As recently as 2017, we had 12 shooting incidents in the entire precinct. 12. So what changed between 2017 and 2020 that we had such a massive, increase? And again, that's something that we can, all work on. Otherwise, in terms of just overall crime, this year we have an increase of 32 crimes, or it's like 2% over crime last year. And I told you on the last call, and I'll tell for maybe whoever wasn't here on the last call, that we've seen a major increase in burglaries this year, and we've seen an increase in grand larceny of auto. Now, the burglaries, I was very specific last time. I told you that was mainly package thefts occurring when someone breaks into an apartment building and then stealing a package. So it wasn't your traditional burglary where someone, pushes the air conditioner window in and goes in that way, or goes into an apartment building and forces the front door open and then burglarizes the apartment. These are mainly happening with package thefts. The other burglaries that we've seen a very major increase, and we've made arrests recently, was for commercial burglaries, specifically Nostrand Avenue and commercial burglaries. Commercial is a storefront that gets broken into. We've also seen an increase, again, in shootings, which drives our assault number. Our assaults are up, and it's much in part due to our shootings. The grand larceny of autos. Early on, we saw a pattern when people were leaving their cars running, and then individuals, a lot of times young gang members, would jump into that vehicle and then use that vehicle to conduct violence somewhere else. Okay, and that was really what drove our grand larceny auto number, which is also up for the year. And again, I gave these overviews last time, but for anyone who wasn't on the call, I just wanted to give that to you. Now, I will say this: while we're up 2%, don't forget that we're up 2% on our best crime numbers in a great number of years. Last year, we had a 10% decrease in crime overall, but it was the best year in terms of crime that, as far back as I could see, to when they were keeping CompStat numbers, the best numbers. So we're up 2% over our best numbers, which means we're still down over. If you look at CompStat as a whole and over the years, we're still doing fairly well in terms of crime. The other thing that we're doing extraordinarily well in is removing guns off the street. Again, I said this last call. I'll just tell you again. Last year, we had one of our best gun years in over 20 years. We removed over 100 physical firearms and arrested over 135 individuals in Crown Heights alone. We were number 4 in the city for gun arrests. This year, we're doing that. We're doing that all over again. We've equaled the amount of gun arrests that we had last year, and we're again getting guns off the street. Not only are we getting guns off the street in Crown Heights, but we're getting guns off the street wherever our gang members live. So a lot of times they live outside the 7-7 precinct, and we're going to get them where they live also. So we have done a tremendous job of getting guns off the street, and we're fighting this fight of violence on every front. Just a bit of news that I wanted to finish with is that police officer Sasha Pierre is no longer with us. He was transferred to the Chief of Patrol's office. For those of you, I'm sure everyone saw it in the news. We have a new Chief of Patrol, the first female Chief of Patrol, Juanita Holmes. And for those on the call, will recognize the name. Is Inspector Abbasi went with the Chief Holmes, and he is now the executive officer for the Chief of Patrol. So that means he's the number 2 person in the Chief of Patrol's office to Chief Holmes, which is great news for us because obviously we know that Inspector Abbasi knows this command very well, and he was always good to us, and I'm sure he will continue to to help us with resources and everything else that we need here. With that being said, if anyone has questions related to crime that they'd like to ask, I'd certainly open the floor at this time for any questions.
Thank you for that update. Some of the people weren't on the call from last week, and some of the people on the call now had some concerns. We're looking at the Lincoln Park area. That was one of the concerns that some of the residents had. We spoke on it last week. Could you give an update on that, and what the steps are being done for the Lincoln Park? Because it was we had some really bad incidents in the park as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And Lincoln Park, and excuse me, since we're in the parks, on Lincoln Park and Broward Park.
Okay. So Lincoln Terrace Park, obviously we've had 2 horrific incidents this year. One, both of them were homicides. The latter was an innocent victim who had absolutely nothing to do with what was going on in the park. And unfortunately, what we saw again is what we believe young gang members, meeting in the park to fight. And of course, we can't just have a fair fight. Shots ring out, and a completely innocent bystander was killed. In the first homicide of the year, that individual we knew to be in and around some narcotics trade. With that being said, it's still unacceptable for anyone to be killed over that issue. So we have stepped up our enforcement in and around the park, but we've also gotten a lot of help. And if I had more time, I probably would have talked about technology. Because we've received so much assistance in terms of technology, more than I've ever seen at once. And what I'm talking about is in the help of cameras and things that will help us monitor what's going on sometimes without physically being there. And we've just, I can't tell you how much assistance and how much we've gotten from our overhead commands, from the Brooklyn North Borough, from the Chief of Patrol. We've just had a tremendous amount of resources that have been poured into the community, and they are extremely, extremely helpful. In terms of Broward Park, Broward Park this year obviously went under some construction, and we saw a reduction in incidents that were occurring in the park. But with that being said, there still seems to be some gang activity in and around. We've again, the main crew that operates out of Broward Park, we've done a significant amount of work into deterring violence from that crew. And when I look at my shootings from this year, I can tell you that crew has been involved in quite a few. A lot of those individuals are in jail right now, and when we haven't seen the level of violence out of that area. So,
we have one quick question that was coming from Diane.
Mhm.
Diane, I see your hands are raised. You want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
yeah, still muted.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, Diane, we can't hear you right now.
Maybe if you type it in the chat, we'll be able to read your question out.
Okay, we have any of that? I'm quite sure we do.
Yes,
Yeah,
actually.
I had a question.
Identify yourself, please.
This is William McKeithen.
Oh, William. Oh, sorry.
Hi,
Well, yeah.
I was going to read your
Yeah.
question. Go ahead, Mr. McKeithen.
I'm so sorry, Miss Henry. I'm so sorry. So basically, Chief Buttacavoli, what I wanted to know is it possible that we can possibly someone I can get with at the precinct to try to organize a gun buyback? Now, I've never done one before, but I know that clergy is usually involved, is usually a church involved, and definitely the precinct is involved. But I would like to try to create, some venues to give people an opportunity to give their guns up rather than get arrested with them. Because there are some people, not a great deal, that would want to give their gun up.
So you know what? It's such a great question, William. Thank you for the question. I appreciate everything you contributed to this call today. I can tell you that Chief Harrison, who's the commanding officer of Patrol Borough Brooklyn North, has also advocated for a gun buyback. So it's something that we could definitely work together on, and find a date, and having you involved, I think will definitely help. And I'll definitely get that idea out there. And like I said, just listening to this call and listening to you all speak, I just think that there's so much opportunity, and for us to and there's so much common ground. So COVID was a tremendous setback in terms of meeting in person. But with that being said, we've also learned new ways to communicate, and this call is an example of that. So maybe we can set up a Zoom call, and I can introduce you to one of my new community affairs officers, Officer Gene Bart, and we can always have Laverne. And if it doesn't work at first, we'll keep trying, and it seems like that's where we're at. To get the correct level of communication between our organizations, and find out where that common ground is, and how we can move forward together and do it the right way. I know you mentioned before that, a lot of times when you speak to us that, we speak in police, which I think Mark mentioned also. It's a lot of times it's this police perspective at these meetings, but, we understand that we have to have it the other way. It can't just, and it shouldn't be just a police perspective. We really need to have this community perspective. And like I said, us here in the police department, we're really searching for it, and we'll get it done.
Thank you, Chief. A lot of respect to you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll be definitely a fantastic collaboration, and I look forward for that. Marv, we have anything else out there?
Yes, community resident Noble says.
One second. We're going to miss Sasha. Sasha gave me a call, and he gave me a word out that he was leaving, and I'm extremely happy for him. And he will be missed, but he's going over to a good man, a bossy. He'll be definitely looking out for us. Go ahead, Marvin. I apologize about that.
Sure. There seems to be an increase in graffiti on residential buildings Nostrand Avenue continues to take a hit. Can the inspector share any initiatives to address this situation?
Hey, so I have my crime prevention officer with me today, Officer Vidal. But graffiti is something that we've never taken lightly, and a lot of times graffiti, can be attributed to gangs marking their territory, and we all know it just kind of psychologically does something to us that makes it seem like the community is not cared for. So we really do a tremendous amount of work on the graffiti front. I know Kelvin's right here. Maybe he could jump in and help me out with some of the things that crime prevention are doing right now. I'm going to pass the microphone over to Henry.
How you doing, folks? It's Officer Vidal. I'm the crime prevention officer here at the 77 Precinct. I know most of you guys on here. Unfortunately, the graffiti-free program that the city runs has been canceled due to budget cuts. So because of that, you might be seeing a lot more graffiti around. But what we still do here as a community, we have our auxiliary officers and our explorers, and we would like to invite more people in the community to actually come out and help us and get us some paint and some brushes, and we'll go out there and actually do some painting ourselves. So, we definitely be looking for donations with paint, brushes, rollers, and we can get out there and get physical, and welcome you to actually help us out as well.
Vidal?
Yes.
I'm going to take you up on that offer. We're going to do it in springtime. It's going to be, I think we'll do it more than, let's do it as a two event thing, but we'll be speaking in the winter, and I will follow up on that, and we will set it up for the spring. We'll it's not just the 77th precinct, but we're going to be looking for the community. We're going to be looking for owners. We're going to be looking for the commercial owners also to be involved. So we'll definitely be in touch with that, and already got some hands up on people saying they're down on it. So we'll definitely work that out, Vidal. So we'll follow through with that. Next one, you're welcome. Next one, Marva.
Mark, if I could just jump in on the answer. Listen, we still do complaint reports, so we welcome any information. Like if there's new graffiti, don't give up on it. Let us know. Do the report so that we can keep track of it, because we want to know the spots that we should be going to. So I want to encourage everyone to just keep letting us know. Let's not give up on this, and let's keep fighting.
I agree with you, but
Mark, if I could just jump in there also, with the graffiti-free program, it's canceled for now, but it can start back up. So definitely, if you see the graffiti anywhere, call 311. You can do it on through the app, or you can call them 311 through the phones and actually report the graffiti. That way, when they get a list of all these locations with the graffiti, when the program starts back up, they can actually get to it.
Okay. I also, it's a good thing for us to do, but I also think that owners need to be responsible for their own property, especially if it's on a commercial district. And if you and this COVID environment, as an owner, and you're going to bring business, you need to have your place clean. So it's also it is ownership for those people who own the place. We'll definitely put emphasis on that as time goes on. Next one, Marvin.
Mark, you know what? I'm sorry, Marvin. I apologize. But on this issue also, I would encourage, because I know that with COVID and budget cuts, they're talking about a reduction in sanitation. I would also encourage anyone when there is graffiti, when there's garbage pile, make your voice heard. Make sure that we're calling 311 and saying that we need these services, because I really do feel like it's every little bit helps.
Right. You can contact your local council members and say, we need resources for the community because it's becoming a problem. And, they have funds where they could potentially contribute, paint and manpower to clean it up and, allocate resources. just because the city cuts the funding doesn't mean the funding is not available elsewhere, or you can get a grant or something like that. So definitely report it to your local officials as well.
Thank you, Marva. As a matter of fact, they will participate in this spring cleanup that we'll be doing. They will be called out wintertime,
Yes.
and they will be given a date so that they be aware of what's going to be done. So we're going to get their full participation on that, and we'll have the community reach out to them and enforce that.
Sure. I do want to give Ms. Diane the opportunity to have her question heard. She did type it in the chat, so I hope I read it well. It's concerning safety of citizens. She's saying young people are off the chain and the are teaching them to be that. What are some realistic goals to attack the issues? Should certain areas be quartered for visitors, being that they're, and she wishes her mic was working so that she could speak herself. And she's put her contact information in the chat just in case anyone wants to reach her directly. I wonder if I could. So what's some realistic goals to combat? Again, seems like the question is about the general cycle of being involved in violence. One thing that I didn't hear was how sometimes, gang affiliation is passed down from, generation to generation, or, it's not just we're learning from our older siblings, but your brother may have been shot and you're hurt and you're in pain for that. So you might resort to violence. So what is the question? What are we going to do to combat this generational issues?
Yeah. I don't know
see you
if the
trying to
question
talk.
is for me. Yeah. I don't know if the question was for me, but I thought that, Derek, Rashawn, and William really spoke to that more than I could. I think that they're the boots on the ground, that are really at the forefront of that. And I'm happy to see that, and I think you're 100% right, Marva, in that it is generational, and I can tell you that from my perspective, because I see the gang generations and the names change of the gangs, but it is from older brother, father, in some cases grandfather, that we see. So it is generally generational in some cases, and but like I said, I as far as the police goes, look, obviously we're always in the business of stopping gang violence, but how do you stop that mindset? And I think that, like I said, we heard from other people that really have a better answer on that than I can give today.
Well, it looks like Lateef and Rasan and William may have left for the night, but I will draw everyone's attention to the chat. They each put their contact information in the chat. You're going to have to scroll through to see it, but those gentlemen did put their information in the chat. There was a question for you, Inspector. Sorry, I'm scrolling.
Oh, I see it. I see the Nostrand Avenue question. Is that the one we were going to get to? Because I see there's a question.
Ms. Holder, before that, there's a pilot program for social workers to be dispatched instead of police officers. Is there any plan to welcome that into the 77th precinct?
We don't have I don't have a directive just yet. With that being said, when we come out with a protocol and a process, obviously it's something that we're very interested in, because anything to that's going to help us accomplish the mission. I don't think that I certainly don't feel that I'm the end all be all, or that the police and the department is the only solution. We're always looking for other solutions outside. How could we do it better? Would that is that something that's going to be helpful to us accomplishing our mission? And if it is, then we're all in. And I know there's obviously been a lot of talk about reallocating resources. We would certainly welcome that opportunity to see if that's something that's going to be helpful to to reducing violence, and honestly to just help with the mental health aspect. And I think that's a theme that we're seeing, overall. It's something that's needed in this community. So the more we can get of it, the better. I think the better we are.
Right. There's a question about speeding on Rogers Avenue.
I think I tackled this question last time. Just let's all keep it in mind. I'm talking about. Are we talking about speeding in vehicles, or are we talking about the bike speed? Because I know that I've answered the bike question a couple of times. With that being said, we have to point to the fact that the e-bikes were made legal under 25 miles an hour. Was actually made. It was written into law. So those e-bikes, scooters under, I think 20 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour and under, were just legalized just the other day. So I'm not sure. We're talking about speeding in.
She
in
said
cars.
vehicles. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, vehicles.
So it's something that we'll definitely take a look at. I'm just going to take a look at overall. We've actually increased our speeding enforcement. I can't tell you that Rogers Avenue has been part of that initiative, but over the last 28-day period, we've written 10 more speeding summonses than the same time last year. So and I think everyone knows that the speed cameras are out, and they have a lot of enforcement as well. So we've stepped up our enforcement on this end as well, and I'll make sure to pay attention to Rogers Avenue.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Gibbs is just encouraging everyone 311 as a resource to hold the community accountable. There's a 311 app that can be downloaded onto your phones for quick access to open complaints.
And I will agree with that. I 100% agree with that. You have to tell us so that we can address the issue. It does create a paper trail, and the more calls we get, the more able we are to handle it. So I would encourage you to use 311 as well.
And finally, there's a comment about drug sales on Nostrand Avenue every night on Nostrand and Park Place, Nostrand and Prospect Place, and probably other corners along Nostrand Avenue. So we're asking that the inspector look into that.
Yep. So just to talk about Nostrand Avenue, and I know, again, I spoke about this last call, but we do employ foot posts, which is, I know, something that for years the community was wanting to get back to ever since we, stopped doing Operation Impact, which was having the newly assigned police officers out on foot patrols. We have brought foot patrols back, and we got a tremendous amount of resources from the department over the summer, and it's a summer initiative, but they actually let us keep those resources, and we continue to employ foot posts. You'll also notice that we have had light towers. We do have a light tower right now at Nostrand and Prospect. We've had them at Nostrand and Park in the past, where we know the drug dealers like to hang out. And the light towers are not, they're mechanical, and sometimes they go down. They're not the best piece of equipment because they have to be refueled and they have to be repaired. So they do go down quite often. However, we do put foot posts out in that area, and we've also had a tremendous amount of arrests of those drug dealers at those locations. For us, one of the problems is making sure that the drug dealers are not immediately released, and that there's a little bit of a little bit of a price to pay for doing this to the community. And that's just an issue that we continue to work on. Unfortunately, during COVID, a lot of the narcotics arrests were deferred. We continue to make the arrests, and we continue to advocate for the proper punishment.
And final question, we're closing out the chat, Mr. Al Liebird. What time of the day were the incidents by Lincoln Terrace Park, and have the police presence been increased in that area? He's asking because he's in that area.
Unfortunately, both of the incidents took place in the daytime. really before 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Both incidents occurred in broad daylight, which is even more alarming. Like I mentioned before, we had a tremendous amount of help in terms of technology, but we also try to have a presence in the parks with uniformed police officers, with the patrol cars being seen. We try to go through the park with our lights on, and we try to just have a presence there. Unfortunately, we do not have the personnel to put like a post within the park, but we do try to hit it on every tour. We try to be visible, every tour in the park.
Question in reference to that park. Is that park exclusively for the 77th Precinct Patrol, or you share that park with another precinct?
No, it's just us. It's all 77 Precinct. It's ours. Obviously, we're always in conversation with the Parks Department, and they'll help when they can. But with that being said, it's our responsibility, and we don't share that responsibility with anyone else.
And there was a question continued from Mr. Liburd. Will the 77th Precinct resume the community council meetings, but virtually?
We have.
Yeah, the last meeting was November 9th, and it was a Zoom meeting. So, Mr. Liburd, I guess if you get on the right mailing list, you'll be able to get notified of the next meeting.
And I'll also, and I want to, because this was a greatly attended meeting in itself. If we have a mailing list that we got the people on this call, we'll certainly invite everyone here to our community council meeting as well. And I did ask Mr. Caldwell, our community council president, to have that meeting in December, even though sometimes we take a break for the holidays. I figured since the meeting is virtual, and we haven't been, since the COVID epidemic, we haven't been doing them normally, to get a sense of normalcy back. I asked him to do the meeting in December, and I would encourage us to have this meeting in December also. I don't think it's too much to ask to get on a call and do the meeting and get those important issues out there. I, for one, certainly don't mind doing it. If everyone else agrees, I'd be happy to participate in any meeting, even during the holidays. And with that being said, this is obviously Thanksgiving week, so I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, even though we're not supposed to be having big celebrations, right? Maybe I just hope that that everyone on the call does have a very blessed holiday, and maybe we can be thankful for it wasn't a great year, but we're here, and, maybe we can be that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for participating, Marva. Thank you very much for organizing it. Everyone, thank you for participating on the call. We ran through everything that was in here. It was longer than anticipated, but it was very informative and very constructive. We have an input from neighbors and from our representatives, and I think that's about it. I guess we're going to wrap up about 8:10 on this Monday, and I echoed what the deputy inspector said. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and be safe. But Deputy Inspector, our public safety, we're not going to be meeting in December. I must say the guys have been the crew has been extremely helpful. We've been meeting 2 times a month, but we're going to take, but if anything does come up, we'll definitely reach out to you, and we'll join back in January. I think that's about it. So everyone, have a good Thanksgiving and have a great one. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're closing
Good
out.
night.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you very much. This meeting was great. Thank you. This is Heather.